Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Day 3 of the Asian Think Tank Forum 2024, Digitalization as an Opportunity for Inclusive Growth in Asia and the Pacific. On this honorable occasion, I, Nadia Daulay, will be the host for this event. This event is convened by the Asian Development Bank, or ADB, under its Asian Think Tanks Network ATTN platform, in collaboration with the Asian Development Bank Institute, or ADBI, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia, and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, or UNSCAP. This forum is to enhance capacity of researchers and think tanks in developing countries and promote policy-relevant empirical research in a key development issue in the region. For the last 2 days, we have extensively covered topics of digitalization, and today we will be continuing on our third day with more sessions on financial digitalization, entrepreneurial digitalization, trade, and e-commerce. I would like to greet our event organizing partners, ADB, ADBI, and also UNSCAP, and all of our distinguished guests from around Asia. I would like to start on our first agenda. I would like to welcome Mr. James Correa, Capacity Building and Training Associate of ADBI, to deliver his opening remarks. Please.
Okay, so good morning to our distinguished presenters, panelists, and participants today. Thank you for bearing with us while we ironed out some of the organizational aspects this morning. It's my pleasure to warmly welcome you to the third day of the Asian Think Tank Network 2024. My name is James Correa, and I'm a Research and Capacity Building Associate at the ADBI. Our discussions today will focus on the overarching theme of digital trade for small and medium enterprises. This is designed as a series of interactive capacity building and training sessions. On behalf of the Asian Development Bank Institute, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude for your attendance and engagement in today's event. Before moving to the strategy and substance of digital trade as it plays out in Asia and the Pacific and providing an overview of today's event, please first allow me to express my sincere appreciation to our dedicated collaborators in organizing the Asian Think Tank Network. The Asian Development Bank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. We at the ADBI are grateful for your support in preparing for and delivering this event, as well as your ongoing partnership towards sustainable and inclusive development of this region more generally. Now, moving to the strategy, the ADBI has been a long-standing and committed partner of the Asian Think Tank Network since it was first launched in October 2013. The objectives of this network are threefold: to enhance systematic knowledge sharing, strengthen think tanks' research capacity on macroeconomic and development issues, and to raise awareness of Asia and the Pacific in the global community. The research agenda of the ATTN is grounded in the policy priorities of the emerging economies of the Asia-Pacific region. This is reflected in the last 9 iterations of the ATTN, which have encompassed trade and global value chains, digitalization and inclusion, sustainable development, human capital and skills, regional integration, and post-pandemic recovery. This year's ATTN is no exception, and its overarching goal of inclusive digitalization in Asia and the Pacific aligns strongly with ADB Strategy 2030. Digitalization can improve governance and institutional capacity by making public administrations more responsive, streamlined, and transparent. It carries the potential to foster regional cooperation and integration by providing platforms for cross-border trade, cultural exchange, and people-to-people links. Digital tools can address the remaining poverty and inequalities we face in Asia and the Pacific through better delivery of welfare payments and insurance schemes, access to financial and banking services, and new pathways to employment. The digital and sustainability transformations are also deeply intertwined, with digital tools enabling resilience through early warning systems for disaster risk reduction, accelerated economic diversification and shifts towards services, and better emissions monitoring, management, and reduction. Now, today's specific focus on digital trade also resonates with the ADBI's portfolio of capacity building and training initiatives, which spans conferences and roundtables, e-learning modules and courses, and interactive workshops like the one we've organized for you today. At the end of August, for example, the ADBI, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and ASEAN +3 Macroeconomic Office, or AMRO, brought together leading policymakers from across the region to discuss the key elements of financial leadership. Later this month, we will host a sustainable public procurement workshop with the ADB in our headquarters in Tokyo. And in parallel, we're developing and delivering a series of courses on Asian economic development and integration with the University of Tokyo, as well as a package of e-learning modules on financial digitalization with our wonderful colleagues at Cambridge University. Digital trade and economic cooperation feature prominently in each of these initiatives. Now, moving to the substance of today's event, digitalization is transforming the nature, pace, and scale of trade and economic cooperation. From 2005 to 2020, digitally deliverable exports increased by an average of 10% each year across Asia and the Pacific. This momentum continues, with the sector registering 9% growth last year. The pandemic was a major accelerator for the digital economy, as we all know, and its overall value is set to triple from $300 billion today to $1 trillion by 2030 in Southeast Asia alone. This has broad-based benefits, with each 1% rise in digital trade associated with an extra 0.8% in GDP per capita. Digital economy agreements and e-commerce and digital trade chapters are also proliferating in regional economic cooperation arrangements, from the CPTPP and RCEP to the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement signed just last year. However, progress remains uneven across countries, and regulatory and institutional arrangements often struggle to keep pace with technological innovation. Now, financial digitalization and intelligence herald some of the most promising, financial digitalization and artificial intelligence, or AI, herald some of the most promising and perilous aspects of the digital transformation. The participation of MSMEs in capital markets and their access to loans remains extremely limited, with capitalization rates locked in the single digits of GDP for many countries across the region, and loans accounting for roughly 10% of GDP in Asia and the Pacific. Now, what's the role of financial digitalization? It can boost access to financing by promoting competition among lenders, narrowing information asymmetries, and lowering transaction costs. The integration of AI into economic operations carries the potential to boost productivity, reduce costs, and improve employee learning. Recent surveys suggest that almost half of all enterprises across the region are currently exploring how to tap into AI, and 55% of telecoms and financial organizations are already investing in AI tools. This emergent status of AI across MSMEs and the rapidly evolving regulatory landscape underscores the importance of our discussions today. Financial technologies are also propelling many of the shifts we see across the region. Asia and the Pacific is home to the most fast-growing fintech industry and the highest adoption rates across the globe. It's interesting to note that fintech applications are 70% more widespread in emerging economies such as Vietnam and the Philippines than they are in mature markets such as Australia. Now, despite the literacy of its citizens and the enthusiasm of its MSMEs, investment in fintech applications often falls short. With the vast majority of future fintech growth expected to be delivered by domestic companies in developing countries with expanding middle classes, it is essential that MSMEs are equipped with the finance they need to succeed. Now, the emergence and expansion of new e-commerce platforms and online marketplaces are also transforming the business landscape. More than 80% of MSMEs in Asia and the Pacific have identified these platforms as crucial pathways to broaden their customer base. However, significant challenges remain to be overcome if the benefits of digitalization are to be more fully unlocked and more equitably distributed. And these challenges I'd like you to keep in mind throughout our discussions today. Number one, the dramatic growth of the digital economy remains remarkably concentrated and uneven, and the region is marked by wide and persistent digital divides. LDCs account for only 1% of the digital economy in Asia and the Pacific. The price of an internet connection could be 4 times higher as a proportion of income than in developed economies. Mobile subscription rates in many economies, such as Laos, PDR, and Nepal and Timor-Leste, remain below half of the population. And it's important to remember that more than a third of the global population remains entirely unconnected, including many in Asia and the Pacific. Number two, the gap between the pace of technological innovation and the capacity of regulation to manage its effects is increasingly evident in Asia and the Pacific, as digital technologies continue to outstrip the ability of governments to implement effective frameworks. Number three, there's a pressing need to upgrade digital skills and literacy among citizens and workforces, boost infrastructural connectivity, and invest in the future of the digital transformation. Approximately 40% of the population in Asia and the Pacific lack basic digital skills, and nearly half of those in rural areas are entirely cut off from the internet. Number four, an enabling environment for MSMEs needs to be fostered to transition from market concentration to market competition. In one example, whereas large corporations benefit from favorable terms, MSMEs often struggle with credit constraints. Initiatives such as peer-to-peer lending platforms exemplified in Indonesia and Malaysia, as well as targeted government subsidies and digital transformation programs, can help bridge this gap and bring MSMEs into the digital economy. Now, where do MSMEs come in? They're key to addressing all of the issues I've just outlined, a central pillar of the regional economy, and a potent vehicle for advancing inclusive and sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. MSMEs account for 97% of all businesses in this region, employing almost 70% of the overall workforce and contributing to almost half of total GDP. Between 61 and 89% of MSMEs are in the services sector, making them essential for economic diversification, environmental resilience, and the next phase of development. Ultimately, the economic future of the region depends on its 71 million MSMEs to leverage digital trade, financial digitalization and technologies, and novel pathways for e-commerce and online marketplaces. Now, this brings us to the structure and content of our event today. The core objective is to advance our collective understanding of the key drivers and dynamics of digitalization in Asia and the Pacific. To achieve these aims, our agenda spans a current overview of the state of digital trade across the globe and within the region, financial digitalization and AI, financial technologies, and e-commerce and online marketplaces. As for the structure, each session will combine a 40-minute presentation from each speaker, followed by 20 minutes of moderated discussion with myself and the experts we've assembled, and 20 minutes of live Q&A with the audience. We welcome your perspectives and insights during these sessions, as well as in our lunch and coffee breaks outlined in the agenda. To open the day, Dr. Dee Allen from the Cambridge Centre of Alternative Finance will be speaking on the role of financial digitalization and AI in MSME entrepreneurship and innovation. This will be followed by Pak Karania Dharmasaputra of the Indonesian FinTech Society, OVO, Grab, and Bareksa, who will guide us through the transformative role of FinTech in empowering MSMEs and financial inclusion, with a particular focus on the Indonesian context. When we return from lunch and Friday prayers, we will reconvene and enjoy the inaugural presentation of a paper from Pak Adinova Fauri from our partners at CSIS on enhancing digital competitiveness and inclusivity. This will be followed by Professor Hildegard Nordhaus of the Council of Economic Policies and a former director at the OECD, who will share with us valuable insights into the evolving landscape of digital trade and its variations across the globe. Last but not least, we will be fortunate to hear from Pak Irwanda Wisnu Wardana, and I apologize, my Bahasa is a work in progress, of the National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia, who will speak to us on the role of online marketplaces and e-commerce for MSMEs, including the latest developments in these fields for inclusive digitalization. We will close the day with some final remarks from my wonderful colleague Daniel Suradiyama of the ADBI. Now, I hope you're as excited as I am for the lineup of experts we have with us today. On behalf of the ADBI, we hope this training will strengthen your understanding of the key drivers and dynamics of digitalization in Asia and the Pacific, enrich your knowledge of the opportunities and challenges associated with trade and technology as they relate to MSMEs, and illuminate novel insights on current practices and future pathways toward an inclusive and sustainable digital economy in the region. We also hope to equip you with practical and actionable tools and transferable lessons to implement in your respective roles, institutions, and jurisdictions going forward. Once again, I warmly welcome our diverse speakers, presenters, and eminent audience members here today, and look forward to an engaging series of sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. James Correa, for your welcoming remarks. I would first of all like to invite our morning speakers to come up. Okay, all of our speakers for today to come up and take a short photo session to the front of the stage.
Sorry,
so Dr.
Sorry, everybody, speakers and participants, everyone.
Okay.
Group photo.
Okay, so
we
we will be doing what we've done for the past 2 days. Everyone, if you would please come up to the stage to take a picture for the third day for our documentation purposes, just like we did yesterday and on Wednesday. So please, if everyone could come up to the front of the stage, that would be very helpful. We can make 1 line on top of the stage and 2 lines on the bottom. All right, everyone. I think we can make 2 lines on the bottom so that everyone can fit in the picture. Okay. Okay, let's see if everyone can fit. A bit to the middle. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for your participation in this picture. A round of applause for us all. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, and as we resettle our stage for today, first of all, I would like to greet our two speakers for today's morning session, Dr. D. Allen from Cambridge University and also Pak Karania Dharma Saputra from OVO. So while we wait for the stage to be reset up, I would also like to introduce Mr. James Correa as our moderator for today, and he will be conducting the discussions up until lunch and also after lunch. So without further ado, I will pass on the floor to Mr. James Correa. Thank you so much.
Okay, so for our first and keynote session, I'm delighted to invite Dr. D. Allen, who will discuss the role of financial digitalization and AI for MSMEs. Dr. D served as the head of capacity building and education and lead in regulation and policy at the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance from 2020 to 2024, and she remains a research affiliate at Cambridge. She is also a senior fintech and financial innovation lecturer at Teesside University and leads their Doctor of Business Administration program. Dr. D has over 20 years of experience and expertise across law, business, and academia. She holds a PhD from the University of Cambridge and an LLB and LLM from SOAS University of London. Please join me in giving a warm welcome and round of applause. Dr. D, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks. Good morning to everyone. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and I've really enjoyed the last 2 days observing the different presentations. So thank you to ADBI, UNESCAP, CSI, and ADB for the invitation and today to join you and to do this presentation. So bear with me, I'm going to be looking at my laptop because I can't really see the screen there. It's just too far for me. So I'll be sort of running through my laptop as I talk to you. So I'm talking about the role of financial digitalization and artificial intelligence in SME, entrepreneurship and innovation. And in terms of the session agenda, just get my stick. I'm going to be introducing you to the CCAF, and then I'm going to talk about SMEs and digital finance, and then digitalization of SMEs and AI opportunities and risk, recommendations, conclusion, and we'll have the Q&A session as well. So a bit about the CCAF itself. So the CCAF, which stands for the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance, was actually established in 2015 at the University of Cambridge Judge Business School. And the core activities of the CCAF is research, and it's one of 20 research centres within the Judge Business School itself. We conduct research. We've had over 60 plus publications, and our research focuses on fintech innovation, regulatory innovation, digital finance, and we publish policy papers mainly for global audience as well as regional audiences. So we conduct global research as well as regional research. In addition to that, we also develop digital tools. For example, we have a fintech atlas map where we have information about the majority of fintechs in the world, really, and that's a digital tool that we provide for free for public good and for people to learn more about fintechs. We also have capacity building and education as our third pillar, and that's the area that I've been leading, and that's really where my expertise is, as it were. And to date, and it's still growing, we've trained over 2,000 financial regulators, policymakers, supervisors, and sometimes even fintech innovators on our programs. And I'm going to be talking a bit more about the programs in a minute. And within the center, we have about 60 full-time and part-time staff, fellows, research fellows, affiliates, and so on. And one of my colleagues, Nick Drury, is actually here with me today as well. And because we're a public sort of body, we're part of a university, we are funded. We're not a private organization, so we rely on funding for our research work and for our capacity building education and digital tools. And most of the funding comes from the UK FCDO, the Gates Foundation, and very pleased to tell, it says ADBI as well. ADBI is a very strong partner of ours, the UNCDF and so on. And you've just got a picture of some of us. You can see it's a very diverse group of researchers and academics that work at the CCAF. Okay, so I talked about the research that we do, and we publish global reports. Normally, we conduct those reports in partnership. We've done reports with ADB, with ADBI, and what you can see here is the fintech taxonomy that we've developed over the years, and that's still developing, as it were. And if you can see there, this is a report, came out of a report that we developed with the World Bank and the World Economic Forum back in 2022. And on this list, you can see the fintech verticals, the business models that we refer to as fintechs. And included on this list, digital lending, digital capital raising, digital payments, insurtech, digital banking, wealth tech, and so on. We also look at the market side of things as well, rec tech, sub tech. And this taxonomy is evolving, it's always changing. But it's just to give you an idea of what we see as fintech, as it were. And like I said, this taxonomy is changing all the time. And that takes me to the next slide, where I talk about the programs which I've been leading at the CCAF. And in terms of the programs, our flagship program is called the Cambridge FinTech and Regulatory Innovation Program. And the reason why this program was created is because we conducted research back in 2018 to understand what was going on in the fintech space. But one of the things that we found was that regulators and policymakers had a knowledge gap when it came to fintechs and fintech innovation. So we saw a need to provide training, awareness, capacity building and education for regulators in this space. And so the CFTRI was created to deliver that. And in October 2019, we had our first cohort of the CFTRI program. To date, we've had now 12 cohorts of the program, and we've educated over 1,600 regulators and policymakers in the 12 cohorts. And the majority of our participants are regulators and policymakers, and about 35% of our participants are from the APAC region, and then about 33% from the SSA region, and then the rest is MENA, Europe, and the rest of the world. So the majority of our participants are from APAC region, for this region. In fact, the number one participants is from the Philippines, mainly from the Securities Commission and the Central Bank of the Philippines. And then the second most popular list of participants is from Indonesia, again, mainly from the Central Bank and OJK. And so the CFTRI program is a foundational program. And as a result of that, we've actually extended this program again, because there's a need for foundational education in this area because of the lack of knowledge and the gap that we saw. We've now sort of delivered this program in the Philippines itself and also in the Bahamas for not just regulators and policymakers, but for other people working in any space that may have an interest in fintech innovation. We've gone on to develop other programs because the need was there. We did needs analysis, and we saw a need for a specialist digital assets program, which we're now delivering for regulators, and another one for non-regulators. On the digital assets program, we look at cryptocurrencies, such as crypto assets. We look at digital money. We look at central bank digital currencies. And then we go into the technology as well, DLT and blockchain. And we also saw a need for the creation of a supervision technology lab, SupTech Lab. And within the SupTech Lab, it's an innovation sort of tech-focused lab. And in that lab, we provide training again for supervisors mainly. So we've got a program called the SupTech Frontiers program, data science program, which is open to everyone, because that's another area where we've seen knowledge and skills gap. And so data science is something which we also teach through the lab, and then product and organizational innovation. And finally, we've also recently introduced the Cambridge Open Banking and Open Finance program, which is mainly for regulators. I'm going to be talking a bit about open banking later on. And we're about to introduce a program for non-regulators as well in this area, because it's so relevant in this current climate. So the reason why I'm telling you about this is because throughout my presentation, the key theme that's coming out for me is that there is a sort of like a lack of awareness, skills gap, expertise gap. And in the last 2 days, a lot of the presentations that I've heard, when we talk about recommendations, we tend to hear that there's a need for more training, for more capacity building and education initiatives. And that's what I'm also finding in the research that I'm reading and I'm conducting. Hence, I'm telling you about what we're trying to do practically to sort of solve these challenges that we were going to be talking about. So I move on. So my focus today is on SME, financial digitalization, and AI. So in terms of SME, and in terms of defining what SME is, each country has its own definition of SME. Majority of the time we talk about MSMEs, micro, small, medium-sized enterprises. So I just wanted to make that clear. I'm going to be doing a quiz in a minute for us to see what we understand by SMEs. And another thing I wanted to also mention is that through the research that I'm going to be talking about later on, it's very clear that SME digital transformation is a key driver of innovation and entrepreneurship. SMEs are important to the global economy, as it were. So this is why it's really important that we're looking at SMEs today. And then I'm going to be talking about financial digitalization and AI and how they're enabling SMEs to enhance productivity, streamline operations, and expand market research. So I'd like to ask all of you now to please bring out your mobile phones, if you have it. And if you don't, maybe the person next to you, you could work together with that person to answer the question. I'm going to do an interactive quiz now. So I'm going to ask the guys at the back, please, to set the screen up. And this is a Kahoot quiz. I'm sure most of you may have heard of Kahoot before. It's meant to be fun and lighthearted. And so please just follow the instructions. You're going to need to scan the QR code to get access to the quiz, and we're going to ask a couple of questions for you to answer. So we'll wait for as many of us to join before we start the quiz. So feel free to give yourself a nickname. If you are with someone, you can create a name for the both of you as a team, because it's going to be competitive as well. So, awesome. many names. Cute. Wonder as well. Wonderful. Yeah. I was just saying how I've been using Kahoot for at least 12 years. And AI is now AI powered, which is great. More people joining us. I'm going to just give a couple of minutes for them to join us. Should we launch it? Should we go for it? Should we launch it now? Let's start the quiz. So we're going to go with the first quiz. We've only got about 20 seconds to answer the questions, so you have to be pretty fast. So, oh, right, there's no joining. But we can start now. Okay, first question's coming up. Okay, which one of the following is not included in the EU definition of an SME? It's really how fast you are. So, I might need your help to look at the results because I can't see. So, the one that's not is the one that says 500 employees, annual turnover or balance sheet. So the EU, when they define SMEs, they include the number of employees, the annual turnover and the balance sheet. And so the less than 10 employees, annual turnover and balance sheet below 2 million is normally a micro SME. And then less than 50 employees with an annual turnover and a balance sheet of below 10 million is seen as a small SME. And then the up to 250 employees, turnover 50 million is seen, a balance sheet of 43 is seen as a medium size SME. I mean, just to ask you, I'm sure for some of you in your countries or even in a different sector, you could have 1,000 employees and still be an SME, right? So the point here is that there's different definitions of SMEs, but in the UK, for instance, we also use the EU definition, but we are aware that it's different in each country. So that's just what I wanted to mention there. So next one. We've got, oh, let's see the winner, RF. Who's RF? If you could put your hand up to say congratulations. I think you're on top. Well done, RF. You're at the top. Good job. And then we got others following. So let's see if you're going to be beating for the next one. So the next one is a poll. And this not really your decision, your choice of answer. AI adoption. All of the above is the majority answer, yeah? That's fair. To be honest, this is no right or wrong answer. All of the above is right. Any of those, if you believe privacy is your major concern, why not? Yesterday, we had a session on AI where privacy was a real concern, and that was where the focus was in that research that's been conducted. So there was no right or wrong answer for this one. It's just how fast you are to answer it. So well done, everyone, for this. Next one. SMEs represent more than, let me look at my 95% of registered firms account for more than 50% of jobs worldwide. True. true. And this is data from the World Bank. Well, we found out yesterday that in Indonesia, what is the percentage? 99? Yes, so it's 97, 99, right? And in the EU, it's 99%. So again, this point that SMEs are really vital to the world economy. Okay, so moving on swiftly. RF still leading. Oh no, micro letters gone. So well done, Microlet. We'll move on to the next one. Which of the following is not yet an AI capability? Well done, everyone. Oh, there's one or two there. It's the solve all problems without humans, right? We give AI at the moment the data. AI works through data. Without our data, we don't have AI. So we are in charge at the moment. So everything else AI can do there on that list, pattern detection, predicting future events, decision making, interacting with humans, you know, but creating content, you know, chat GPT kind of stuff, but not solving all human problems without humans. It's not possible yet. But who knows? That's why it's not yet. Okay, final one. Let's go quickly. It's a poll. So this is a question for you now. Which AI tool do you use the most out of the 4 on there? You may have others that you're using. Majority use ChatGPT. Absolutely. Yes, and then we've got all the others, Google Gemini and GitHub Copilot and Microsoft Copilot. Well done, brilliant. So let's look at the final results. Who is the winner? 3rd place, RF. Congratulations, RF went to 3rd place. 2nd place, Matrix. And 1st place to Galactus. Who's that? Congratulations. Round of applause to all of you for doing this activity. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's carry on. And we're going to go back to our slides. Thank you. And we're going to talk about financial digitalization. Thank you. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to be referring to the research that was done recently in 2023, which is the ASEAN Development Bank's 2023 report on financial digitalization and its implications for ASEAN +3 regional financial stability. And this report explored the impact of digitalization on financial stability within the ASEAN +3 region. And the report looked at the trends, the opportunities, the risks and regulatory challenges associated with the rapid digital transformation of financial services. I just wanted to reiterate that when I talk about financial digitalization, I'm mainly looking at digital financial services. That's where the focus is. And digital finance. And the key trends that they noticed and they reported was this first one, and I've heard this mentioned in previous presentations in the last 2 days, was the high internet penetration as a key trend. So we've seen a significant growth in financial services, which is driven by widespread internet access. I mean, we saw in Vietnam, for instance, this rapid increase of internet access as an example. Another trend is the mobile device usage. Again, we see increased use of smartphones and tablets, which is facilitating adoption of digital financial services. Again, digital wallets are becoming very, very common as the main way of making payments, digital payments, and that continues to rise. And then there has also been a decline in physical banking as another trend, and with fewer physical branches and ATMs as consumers shift to mobile banking and digital payments. I think part of this as well is driven, and from the research has been shown, by the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, in the last 2 days, I've seen so many of the papers reporting very similar trends as reported here. The next thing that the report also talked about was really the benefits which came as a result of financial digitalization in digital financial services. So one is cost reduction. So financial services offer significant cost savings for both providers and consumers because it's digitalized. Also, we see increased efficiency. Platforms, digital, providing streamlined financial transactions and processes, improving efficiency overall. For instance, it's very easy to get lending decisions through platforms in terms of peer-to-peer lending. Next is enhanced customer reach. Digital services are allowing financial institutions to reach a broader customer base, including those in underserved populations. And finally, and this is the one that even for us at the CCAF and most of our regulators and policymakers are really, really pleased about, is financial inclusion. Digital financial services is promoting access to financial services in underserved regions and rural communities, for underserved populations, women, and also MSMEs, fostering greater financial inclusion. So those are the four key sort of benefits and opportunities which we see, which was shared in the report. And finally, the report then also told us about the risks associated with financial digitalization. Cybersecurity threats is a big risk, a big concern, and that's increased, excuse me. And regulatory challenges as well is a struggle, for regulators to keep pace with the changes in digital technology, especially financial digital technology, and then cross-border issues as well. In terms of, there's now with digital financial services, this ease of cross-border transactions, but then that creates some complexity, especially in relation to regulation. So those are the sort of risks that was seen in the reports as associated with financial digitalization. And I move on to another report. This is by UNSCAP, and it was a working paper actually, which was written back in 2022. And this paper was looking at digital transformation across APAC. And the paper presented the Digital Transformation Index used to evaluate countries' digital maturity based on factors such as network infrastructure, government policies, business environment, human capital, and ecosystem supports. And this paper made it very clear again that the COVID-19 pandemic really accelerated digital adoption, pushing businesses and societies towards a contactless environment. And this report or paper says technologies such as AI, cloud computing, Internet of Things, and 5G were widely integrated, but this shift has increased disparities between advanced and lagging regions. And that's something that, again, we need to look into. So some of the key findings from this paper was widening digital divide. This paper made it clear that high-income countries lead in digital readiness and adoption, while low and middle-income countries sometimes struggle to catch up. Again, I heard that in a lot of the presentations over the last 2 days. In the DTI, the Digital Transformation Index, they used 105 indicators to categorize countries into 5 stages of digital transformation: foundation level, adoption, acceleration, business readiness, and digital competitiveness. And the highest ranked countries where the USA, South Korea, Singapore, they scored significantly higher across multiple pillars, particularly in government AI readiness and innovation. A lot of these countries had AI, national AI strategies as way back as 2017, 2016. And then this regional disparities was really brought to the fore. In Asia Pacific is the most digitally divided region. That's what they said in this paper, with substantial gaps in infrastructure, digital skills, and policy development between the developed economies like Japan and then the emerging ones like Cambodia and Laos. So we see disparities in the region. And this is something that was really brought up by this paper as well. I move on to another research. This one was by OECD, and this research was conducted in 2021. An OECD report on the digital transformation of SMEs and provides an in-depth analysis of how small and medium-sized enterprises are adapting to digital technologies, the barriers that they face, and the policy initiatives that can support their digital transformation. And the report highlights the need for tailored policy interventions to enable SMEs to fully leverage digital technologies, including AI, and compete on an equal footing with larger firms. This report really had a really good chapter on AI, and it really went into details to explain the meaning of AI and how the technology works. I'm not an AI expert, but it's really interesting the way it explained what AI was. But for me, if someone asked me to define AI, this is what I say. AI involves computers that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. That's my definition of AI, as it were. It's simple. And in the Kahoot quiz, we looked at some of the capabilities of AI, right? It could predict stuff, it can help us make decisions, it can recognize patterns, and so on. So this is a really simple definition. So when I talk about AI, just please bear this definition in mind, as it were. This report then also talked about some of the challenges in terms of the OECD. But before we talk about the challenges, it's also talked about the opportunities from digital transformation. They said that SMEs, through digital transformation, could have improved productivity, cost reduction, innovation capabilities, and expanded market access. And they mention in the report that technologies such as cloud computing, AI, big data analytics, and e-commerce are critical enablers for SMEs. And those are the topics we're talking about today in our presentations, allowing SMEs to enhance customer engagement, optimize supply chains, and develop data-driven strategies. But the barriers. Barriers to digital adoption. The report said that the smaller businesses, especially micro businesses, lag in adopting digital technologies due to limited financial resources, digital skills gaps, and a lack of strategic awareness. These barriers were discussed over the last 2 days. Another thing they mentioned in this report was that security concerns and interoperability issues also hinder their ability to leverage more advanced digital tools like blockchain and AI. The OECD report provided with several case studies from across the globe. I've just chosen 3 of them, and one of them was South Korea. And through the OECD report, we were told that South Korea has emerged as a leader in digital innovation with a particular focus on integrating AI into business operations. And the key initiatives from South Korea includes government-supported AI training programs, which I'm pleased to see and learn about, aimed at building digital competencies within SMEs, establishment of AI business support centers that provide SMEs access to AI tools and expertise, financial incentives such as tax relief and subsidies especially for SMEs adopting digital technologies. So this is what the Korean government has done, key initiatives to really support SMEs' adoption of AI and digital transformation. And the report said that over 60% of participating SMEs reported improved productivity and the ability to develop new products and services, demonstrating the tangible benefits of digital adoption because of the South Korean government's intervention and policies. The next two case studies are from Europe, and one is from Italy. And in Italy's case, Italy utilized digital platforms to help its SMEs expand their market reach, especially in traditional industries like fashion and manufacturing. And again, they had government-backed initiatives to support SMEs in integrating with digital exports platforms and provision of training and consulting services to enable digital marketing and e-commerce adoption. Impact was 40% increase in exports, and they were able to enter new international markets. That's what we saw in Italy. And then for the UK focused on implementing policies to support rural SMEs, often those that face unique challenges such as infrastructure and digital skills. And the UK government developed rural broadband initiatives to enhance connectivity for remote businesses, creation of digital support hubs that provide training and mentoring. Over 70% of participating rural SMEs reported increased online sales and improved operational efficiency. So, the policy recommendations then from these case studies from the OECD report are as follows. And for all of us who are policymakers in the room, it's really worth taking these down. Create a digital-first policy environment. Establish framework that reduces barriers to digital adoption. Second, encourage digital skills development. Establish national training programs to build digital skills among SMEs, their employees, the owners, and so on. Focus on things like cybersecurity, AI, data analytics. Next, I think we've mentioned this already, is facilitate access to finance. And then promote international collaboration. These case studies are telling us that these are the key recommendations for us as policymakers to bear in mind when we want to support the digital transformation of SMEs. Wonderful. So I'm going to move on now to talk a bit more about AI and again to provide some research data. And I'm referring now to an index report which was published this year in 2024. It's the Artificial Intelligence Index report by Stanford University. And some of the key sort of findings from this report, or results from this report, is they reported the triumphs and the challenges of AI. So AI has surpassed human performance on several benchmarks, including image classification and visual reasoning. So there are things that AI is doing better than humans. We all accept that. Another thing they also reported was AI models have demonstrated superior performance in English language comprehension compared to humans. Again, that is another fascinating triumph that was reported. However, they said that AI still lags behind humans in areas such as competition-level mathematics and visual common sense. So they're not yet, there in terms of emotions, common sense, and so on. So I'm now going to ask a question. I'm going to ask you to raise your hands for this one. And the question is, are you concerned or excited about AI? So I'm going to first ask, if you're concerned about AI, for any reason, if I could ask you to please raise your hand. Just want to see how many people in the room is concerned about AI. Okay, quite a few of us are concerned, yeah? It's fair enough, thank you. Who is excited about AI? same people that are concerned are excited as well. Yeah, so most of us are either concerned, excited, or both, right? This report said that in America, they conducted the research back in 2022. 37% of the population that responded to the survey said that they were concerned about AI, but this year it's gone up to 52%. So the question, why? Why are people concerned? So I'm going to come back. For those of you that said that you were concerned, what's your concern? You know, I'd be happy for someone to share their concern about AI, and we can pass the mic. So anyone to put your hand up to share your concerns about AI? Just go for it.
I'll just speak loudly.
Yeah, go for it.
Like, it's easier to make a clone of, for example, your daughter and phone you calling, I need money because of this and that, or, you know, political fooling campaign. And it's harder to tell whether it's AI or us. So we don't have really that easy capability for all of us in general, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty much my main concern.
Yeah, so fakeness, that could be a problem, yeah. Anyone who would share their excitement about AI? Did you say you were excited? I think
Yeah, I'm excited. Always.
please share your excitement about AI.
I mean, like, everybody has concern, but for me, like, it's always exciting. When we first know smartphone, I think a lot of people skeptic, right? Like, oh, maybe we will stay. But in the end, like, people transform and adapt. So for me, rather than like just being concerned, obviously there are a lot of things to concern, but the one that survives this creative distraction is always the one that embracing it. And for me, like, it's personal reason, I guess. I really like technology, and for me, like, there are a lot of opportunities that can be held into this AI. For example, for the farmings, I was like in the startup competition back then, and kind of like there are a lot of ideas that can help farmers with this. In Indonesia, for example, there is this cucumber sorting. So for cucumber, just for information, when the farmers gather the cucumber, farm the cucumber, they will need manually 2 weeks to sorting all of this cucumber. But when they introduce the like AI in form of like the imaging service that can split them, they only do it in 2 days. And within these 2 days, that means they save a lot of time, they save a lot of people manpower, and also this commodity is not spoiled during the event, because 30% of the commodity was spoiled within those 2 weeks. And for me, like, that's one of the opportunity or many opportunities that can be held with this. But like what Imet also mentioned, there are a lot of opportunity to do bad things as well with that.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely right. Thank you. Thank you both of you for your sharing your answers. Much appreciated. Thank you. And we're going to be discussing the opportunities and challenges soon, and some of the things you've said here is really relevant in terms of what's coming out from the research. Moving on. So what are the benefits of AI? So I think I've jumped a bit, but I think time is running, so that's fine as well. So the benefits of AI, we're based on already what's been said so far, is that it's, you know, efficiency and productivity. By automating repetitive tasks, AI is reducing operational costs and improving efficiency. And that's what's the benefit it is for SMEs, that use AI are benefiting from. AI is also providing insights through data analytics, and it's allowing SMEs to make informed business decisions. AI has been used for chatbots and virtual assistants, enabling 24/7 customer support, enhancing customer experiences, and also AI-powered tools help SMEs target potential customers more effectively and expand their market reach. Moving on. I find that this is going too fast, so that's it, yeah. The overcoming barriers to AI adoption. We've already talked about the barriers before, and again, you can see skills and awareness is a big barrier that's been found. Access to infrastructure is another barrier, and financial support. So SMEs need support in building awareness and skills to leverage AI effectively. The government and the stakeholders can support SMEs in accessing digital infrastructure such as high-speed internet and cloud computing services, and public policies can facilitate access to financing options tailored to support AI adoption in SMEs. And so those are the ways we can overcome the barriers to AI adoption for SMEs. And then I'm going to move on. And I did ask this question in a way in the Kahoot quiz in terms of what do we consider as, you know, the most pressing challenge for AI adoption and development. And all of these, ooh, don't know what's happened here. Go back. No, we're not going back to the quiz though, so don't worry. We're just gonna we're just gonna go on the slide. Bear with us, we'll just get the slide back on. But just carrying on, thank you. Thanks. I'm going to whiz through. In the conversations we had yesterday and the day before, one of the things that we saw as a real challenge is bias and discrimination, right? We said that AI is data-driven and is the data that the people that are sort of, you know, bringing the data, they can bring in their own biases for the AI to learn through the machine learning. And so there's a chance, and it's been seen, that AI could be biased and could discriminate. Another issue that we saw was that AI could replace jobs. So there's risk of job displacement. Privacy concerns we've discussed before, and the lack of standardization in terms of regulation could be a problem. AI also could be lacking in transparency because we don't really understand how the decisions are made sometimes with AI. There's accountability and legal issues, there's security risk issues, ethical concerns with AI, and environmental concerns. The hardware, the computers used for, you know, sort of AI to train those models, it's a lot of energy, a lot of hardware that's used, and there's energy and environmental concerns with AI. So all these concerns are relevant, they're all pressing. There's even systemic risk that AI can cause. If we, you know, adapt to AI and rely on it too much, what if anything happens to the AI systems and we're over-reliant on it? That could be a challenge too. So to address these challenges, we require a multidisciplinary approach involving technologists, regulators, policymakers, and other stakeholders to ensure that AI is developed and used in ways that are beneficial and fair to all. This is a challenge that we have right now globally. You know, and every government is thinking about this. How do we make sure that AI is used fairly, used ethically, and is beneficial to all, not just to a few people? So these are some of the challenges, and I'm sure you may have other challenges as well that you may have thought about. Another one to mention is the risk of financial crimes and other AI risks. And you know, AI could lead to more money laundering. We've seen, you know, because it could automate and you could use it for various activities. It could be used to leverage financial crime, terrorist financing, insider trading and market manipulation, cybercrime, fraudulent investment schemes, identity theft and account takeover, fraud and deep fakes. So that you were talking earlier on about the fake issues that you may have. And this is a very interesting example that happened recently in Hong Kong, where we had a situation where a Hong Kong-based finance professional in a multinational firm, this was reported back in February, in a multinational firm was swindled out of 25 million of company money when the scammers created a deep fake of his London-based chief financial officer in a video conference. So this person thought that they were talking to the CFO in a video conference. In fact, they use WhatsApp messages and even had images of other employees from the organization, but it's all deep fakes. And that's one of the things. AI could give you a picture and say there's a war going on somewhere when there is no war going on anywhere. So from that, you can see the challenges that we still have, especially with fraud and deep fakes. So this is a really good example of how financial crime could be committed, fraud could be committed with AI. So we need to bear that in mind. So moving on then, in summary, the challenges for AI industrialization is data quality and management, regulatory compliance, skills and expertise gaps, ethical and bias issues, cybersecurity concerns. Opportunities that we have is enhanced risk management. We can use AI to enhance risk management, business growth and innovation, especially for SMEs, operational efficiency, enhanced customer experience, and financial inclusion. So, what are the priorities for APAC region? Build core digital infrastructure, enhance digital security, promote technological cooperation, support sector-specific solutions, especially for SMEs, facilitate innovative ecosystems or innovation in ecosystems. And for me, as a capacity building education specialist, the importance of capacity building education and collaboration cannot be overemphasized. I really want to bring that home to say that's where I really believe that we all need to work together and work on to ensure continuous learning, to create more awareness, to encourage knowledge sharing platforms like the one we have here right now, and also to really encourage regional and global cooperation like we're doing here. And finally, to conclude then, just to reiterate what I said at the start, SME digital transformation is key driver of innovation and entrepreneurship. Financial digitalization and AI are enabling small businesses to enhance productivity, streamline operations, and expand market reach. For SMEs to achieve the benefits of digitalization and AI, concerted efforts are required from all stakeholders to build the necessary infrastructure, develop the supportive policies, and provide the adequate funding and resources for SMEs. So that's it for me, and thank you everyone for listening to the presentation and taking part in all the activities. And yeah, I stop for questioning and discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. D, for a characteristically comprehensive, insightful, and very wide-ranging introduction to the key drivers and dynamics of digitalization as we see it in the region. I'll just ask if we could grab an extra seat from our CSIS colleagues, if anyone could help organizing an extra chair, because we're very delighted to have Dee's colleague Nick Drury from Cambridge, Singapore, joining us today. And before we move to moderated discussion and a bit of Q&A with the audience, I'd love to turn to Nick for his thoughts. It's a good thing I'm not carrying that myself. Thanks, guys. So please give Nick a warm welcome, and over to you, Nick.
Selamat pagi semua. I'm Nick Drury from Cambridge in Singapore, as James has very kindly introduced me. And I'm delighted and honoured to be with you all here, and would like to thank our four host organisations for arranging and actually having such wonderful insights and discussions and presentations over the last couple of days. And I think, as Dr. D. Allen has said, one of the key ingredients to making progress in digitalisation and I think in increasing financial inclusion is collaboration, effective collaboration. So I think having the think tank event like this, bringing all of us from different backgrounds, different geographies, different functions, different capabilities together is absolutely essential as one of the ways of being able to drive progress forwards in the right way. And of course, our job is never done. Everything is always work in progress. James, thank you very much for inviting me to join you and Dr. D. Allen on stage. So just briefly, by way of introduction, I have been working with Dr. D. Allen and other colleagues at Cambridge, the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance, as well as also Cambridge Cares in Singapore, which amongst other things does extensive work on decarbonisation. This is the Advanced Research Centre in Singapore. It's a tripartite alliance between the National University of Singapore, the National Technology University, and also the University of Cambridge. There we've also been using quite advanced technologies, dynamic knowledge graph technologies, digital twins, to really trace out the ecosystem for the chemical engineering environment, particularly in Singapore. So you're probably wondering what that's got to do with fintech and small and medium-sized enterprises. I think to add to what Dr. Allen has mentioned in terms of the key challenges and the key opportunities, I would say first of all, we need good data. Without data, we can't digitalise. And secondly, we can't use AI and other emerging technologies. And I think, as we probably all aware in our region, in the Asia-Pacific region, with such large geographical land masses, particularly where we are now in Indonesia, there are huge gaps in terms of collecting data and then thereafter analysing that data. So I think having good data sets and relevant data sets is absolutely fundamental to any discussion, first of all, whether it be to do with research, whether it be to do with development of digital tools, and the subject under discussion this morning in Dr. Allen's particular area of expertise in capacity building and education. So that would be my first word, really, to add to the discussion. The second thing I would also like to say, and there is, I think academically here, there is also a lot of development work going on in terms of ecosystems. So we need to be able to rely on that data from multiple sources. And as our world becomes increasingly interconnected, whether it be at country level, at regional level, international level, we need to be able to trust that data, and we also need to trust those partners that we work with from various backgrounds. And we've seen over the last 5 years or so, in particular, a lot of convergence between industries. When I worked at IBM, we did a study on platform business models, and the data from that particular study showed that industries are converging at an increasingly rapid rate. The other thing I would say also as well is in the context of digital financial services and financial digitization, this is a heavily regulated industry. Again, Dee and myself have spent a lot of time with regulators, central bank officials, government ministries, and others who are involved in policy. And I think one of the key opportunities is to use that innovation which is happening not just on the market side with the small and medium-sized enterprises, but also on the regulatory side. And I think we will start to see, as Dee has mentioned there, much more innovation coming on the regulatory and the supervisory angle in financial services. One question I do have, though, is how that will play out in other industries which are not so carefully regulated as financial services. So they would be some of my additional remarks.
Thank you. Should I respond to that? You know, I totally agree with you, Nick. Data is absolutely crucial and it's something we can't ignore. It's what makes AI work, like I said before. And your last question about, for me, it goes back to bringing all stakeholders together and really creating a platform for knowledge sharing and skills development and capacity building education. That's the only way, and it's going to be cross-sectorial as well.
Perfect. Thank you both very much for your initial reactions, Nick, and responses, Dee. So beyond AI, we know that there are quite a few other developments in financial digitalization, from open banking and decentralized finance to novel technologies and organizational innovation. As you're aware, the ADBI and Cambridge are working together to upskill regulators across Asia and the Pacific in these areas. Now, for you, Dee, what do you believe to be the most notable of these areas and most worthy of attention and action? And how does that prioritization vary across countries and sectors? And what do you consider to be the primary opportunities and challenges associated with each of these new developments in financial digitalization?
Great, thank you. Great question. Thanks for that. For me, right now, personally, I would say that the most notable and worthy area of development is currently open banking and open finance. And that's one of the reasons why we did research across with the regulators that we've been working with and policymakers, and that came up as the top area of concern. And so we developed at the Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance an open banking and open finance program because open banking promotes interoperability between financial institutions, fintech firms, consumers and SME businesses. It gives them control over their financial data and access to tailored financial products. It encourages competition and innovation and fostering the creation of more customer-centric services. So open banking and open finance is what we've seen as this really key area for us to really focus on. But it brings its own challenges, right? Challenges include, you know, the existing regulatory framework, for instance. We require new approaches to ensure consumer protection. If we're talking about open banking and open finance, we need to make sure we ensure financial stability and compliance across jurisdictions. And we've seen, for instance, ADBI, you've sponsored participants from different countries in the region to come into this program, this open banking program, because it's so crucial for us to look for ways to ensure compliance. It brings in data privacy and security issues as well. So we need to look at ways to increase the sharing and integration of financial data to ensure data privacy and prevent cybersecurity risks, and also to build trust. I think that's one of the things that you said, Nick, that it's about building trust as well. And so this, for me, addressing these challenges that I've just mentioned will capitalize on the opportunities, but it will require coordination between policymakers, the private sector, and the technology experts to come together really to make sure we create an innovative financial ecosystem. So for me, it's open banking and open finance, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dee. And just to follow up on that, the suite of courses that Dee outlined in the beginning are available to all of you to apply for, just by the way. So they're always posted on the ADBI website, and I'd encourage each and every one of you to submit an application across the full suite that she's outlined in the beginning of her slide deck there. Zooming in directly to the country in which we now find ourselves, Dee. Indonesia's MSMEs, for example, are largely concentrated around food and apparel. And when I think of digitalization and MSMEs, I'm mostly thinking of, you know, services and law and financial, the financial sector. But 26% of MSMEs in Indonesia, a quarter of them are focused on food, and 10% are focused on clothing. So I'm wondering, based on the findings and recommendations in your presentation, what do you think are the most relevant areas for policymakers and stakeholders to focus on in these particular sectors as it relates to digitalization?
I was thinking about that, you're just saying, there was a presentation that was done. I think it was a gentleman at the front. It was your research that you did. Sorry, yeah, I've forgotten your name, my apologies. And your presentation was really fascinating because you were talking about the fact that you had, this community being able to be employed with the Grab and be able to deliver food with that. And so there's a new sort of opportunities for employment. And for me, that was really fascinating. But one of the concerns I had with that was the working conditions, to say, how are the working conditions? And I think there was a question asked about that. I think policymakers in an environment like that, we need to look at how we could invest in the digital infrastructure, for instance, right? And create SME, micro SME friendly regulations and policies for that, and provide financial support and financial incentives to build a skilled workforce. So for me, James, really that's the focus, that as policymakers, we need to really support with the infrastructure and also provide sort of incentives to support these small businesses. So that's my response to that, really. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dee. Now, before turning to our esteemed guests and audience, I mean, many of you have provided presentations and insights, questions in the last few days, so I'd be delighted to hear your thoughts on what we've just heard from Dee. But before turning to that, one last question for you, Nick. We've heard in the past few days and in the presentation today that the digital divide is one of the primary barriers to be overcome, not just for MSMEs, but for consumers and citizens in ASEAN and across Asia and the Pacific. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, what is the role of think tanks, MSMEs, and educational institutions in bridging this digital divide? And do you have any illustrative examples drawing from all of your experiences across the region that you'd like to outline to all our participants here in efforts to narrow that digital divide through skills? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, James. I think that's the number one question: how we actually break down that divide. I think a number of things, as I mentioned already. I think the think tank network itself and the forum, such events like this, are absolutely critical to bring people together. I think secondly, we need sort of higher granularity in terms of disaggregated data. So our friend at the front here, starting off in the kampong, then building out to the desa, and then building out and out and out. This is going to create, new markets, hopefully, and then bring, that ecosystem closer together, hopefully, and create a larger, more intact ecosystem. But I think, as well as that, we had some of the feedback from the audience. Some people, expressed some concerns about AI, for example. This is quite natural with something that is new to us as human beings. We tend to find it difficult to cope with new things at first. So I think filling that knowledge gap is absolutely essential through courses, training, workshops, having it as focused as needs to be in specific sectors, collecting, disaggregated data around all of that, and then sharing experiences. I would also say, to echo some of the speakers from yesterday, not just in our own country, but let's reach out. We heard Dean from ADBI himself mentioning that if we want to do good research, we should reach outside of our own comfort zone, our own countries. So I think that's absolutely essential as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Nick. Now I'd like to turn to our audience. Any questions? Perfect. Already. Any questions, comments, insights based on your own experience? And if you can start by introducing yourself and your affiliation to all of us here today. Thank you.
Morning everyone, selamat pagi. So my name is Wisnu. I think I'm the only one with t-shirt over here. So yeah, actually like this is just like additional comment probably. And oh sorry, I'm affiliated with University of Göttingen. Currently I'm studying over there. And like I think like the panelist was like touching about my research a bit, and I am a big believer of AI and also like technology in general. But maybe like the things that I want to say here is more like a comment. So a lot of concerns happening with like this new technology. Like people used to say a lot about blockchain, right? And then after that, like they now talking about AI. So there are a lot of concern about AI, especially data privacy and stuff, but it's mostly something that is more in the consumer side, or it's something that's in the private sector. And believing in the market economy, I believe that the private sector will address this because this is a business. It's a profit-oriented stuff. So they will adopt to it, and then they will try their best to do like the best to maximize their utility. So they will do the privacy stuff. As a consumer, maybe it's different because we are actually part of the business. So maybe our data-driven, our data itself is like becoming the part of this business. But because a lot of people here is from policymakers, so maybe this is something that I will try to convey. A lot of organization, a lot of maybe like company will try to sell out things with AI. And learning from the blockchain boom in 2018-17, I think a lot of our government organizations suddenly try to adopt it in the meeting, getting, you know, like a lot of like agreement about blockchain. And maybe now it's about AI. And I think we have to know that now term of AI is being misled for a lot of stuff as well. For example, toaster with AI. So what kind of toaster with AI? What kind of toaster that doing artificial intelligence stuff? Apparently it's just an if-else function. It's already considered as an AI. So if you are here a government officer or like people who are working in the government, AI boom might happen soon, and rather than like not embracing it for me is actually something that we might do and it might help, but don't get sell into the idea that everything has to be AI. So that's probably my message that I want to convey. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further? Yes, thank you.
My name is Chandra. I'm from Sunway University and University of Adelaide. I'm a monetary financial economist. And I've been doing this for the last year. I studied in Canada, Queen's University. And there are 5 elements we brought together, but we didn't explain what are the 5 elements. Let me be very clear. One is there's a purpose for financial markets. And financial markets are heterogeneous. There's a depository bank, non-depository bank, investment banks, and so on. So there's a reason why we over-regulate banks, because we want to protect consumers because of the depository function. And most of the shocks that are occurring is occurring to the financial market. Global financial crisis is a good example where we overloaded ourselves with financial innovation, and that created a lot of unobservables, and the observable risk and the unobservable risk widen, and then we have a crisis. So that's one. So now, then we have digital component. Digitalization is technology that is also has a social implication, economic implication. We absorb that as a general purpose technology. Then we have the other component that we brought into this is artificial intelligence. The way we had a discussion last night over dinner, artificial intelligence is an offshoot of digitalization. So we don't need artificial intelligence because that is driven by the private sector. They're just dropping it to us and saying that we should adopt that. And my conversation with many people, including my good friend here, that we have to accept artificial intelligence, but I don't think so. It's just an offshoot. It's just a tool. And the language that was used is as if an entity already existing, then we need to adjust to that. but the entity need to adjust to us. And then we throw in another element called SMEs into this, and then we combine digital and finance, called digital finance. So yesterday's presentation, there is a digital finance and artificial intelligence, but nobody explained what is digital finance itself. Because the monetary system we set up is completely in line with the way protecting consumers. That's why it's over-regulated and allow other institutions to actually drive the allocative efficiency in the economy. Financial market drives growth. It's very important, but I'm not sure artificial intelligence is going to drive growth. And digital finance, not explained, and artificial intelligence in digital finance, also not clear whether it's going to drive growth. So we bought all these 5 elements, and nobody explained what are these 5 elements. So what is digital finance from the consumer side and from the supply side? And who is doing digital finance? Is it the depository banks? Is it the non-depository banks? Is it non-financial institutions? Nobody explains any of this. So we take that as a given. We take yesterday's presentation, take artificial as given, and then talk about fractured and centralized AI. Never explain anything about digital economy, digital finance, no discussion. And then we end up talking about the 6th element, about the policy. So there are a lot of gaps, even with the experts, the way we explain, as a finance professor and a policymaker into trade and integration and doing this for the last 30 years, I find that it's very, very disturbing. Because we're already jumping, yesterday we jumped into policy discussion without segmenting and identifying what are the overlaps. And this is very critical, right, in capacity building. So the first question, why do I need artificial intelligence? I don't need artificial intelligence. Second question, do you think that digital finance will lead to the next deep financial crisis? So if that's the case, don't you think so that we will over-regulate ourselves? And don't you think so we will go for a centralized AI where the regulators can manage this, rather than a fractured one where it's going to have private sector drives this and increase profit like the global financial crisis and go for a deep dive. Those are the important elements policymakers are thinking of. So if the group here, the experts, and from Cambridge and ADBI can discuss this important issue, it's very, very important for us. And there's one more element in terms of SMEs. On 20th September, ASEAN Secretariat together with ERIA and OECD released the SME Policy Index for 2024. Have 5 pillars: definition pillar, incentive pillar, green pillar, and digital pillar. And the title of that is SME, next set of development and digitalization. It's just announced. And it was not even indicated in terms of what ASEAN is doing. And the SME Policy Index was released in 2018 by OECD together with ERIA. And then it was released just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And no reference is even made in terms of what ASEAN is doing in terms of digitalization itself. So without that perspective, giving the overseas perspective gives the gap itself in terms of the knowledge. So again, this goes to the capacity builders. No, when you come here, fairly give us that perspective so that we know where we are. So that element is important. So the question, do we need artificial intelligence? And what is digital finance? It's not the normal finance, and it's not overlapping every element of the institutions. And the third one is, what policy implication you can derive in terms of digital finance, and do you think that we will have a deep dive financial crisis?
Well, thank you very much for very sweeping and insightful intervention there. Before I close the session, and I'm delighted to see Pak Karania at the back there, welcome. And before I turn to him, and he'll bring a lot of the discussions we've had at quite a high conceptual level in this first session down into context through a series of initiatives across Indonesia. So that is worth noting. But before I turn to our second session, I'll just give Dee the opportunity to respond to your questions on why you need AI, how to regulate it, and if it's going to contribute to large-scale financial crisis in the absence of effective regulation, if I understand you correctly, and a definition of digital finance. If you can package all three of those things into your closing remarks, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Dee.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, going to the first question about why we need AI, I think, I don't think we could even ask why we need AI, because I totally personally believe whether we like it or not, AI is here to stay. AI is here to stay. So it's why we need it, I think, is no longer the issue, is how do we make AI work for us? I think for me is the question, and not why we need it, because it's already happening, it's here to stay. Even if we don't use it, our children are using it, and our children's children will use it. It's going to happen. So why we need it, for me, is not the point, but how do we use AI? So that's my answer to that first question. And yes, digital finance needs to be regulated, because you're right, regulators have very strong regulatory objectives, which includes financial stability, which includes market integrity, which includes consumer protection, which includes financial inclusion. All those objectives are crucial. So therefore, we have to regulate digital finance. And regulate, and that's why we run a regulator program to encourage regulatory innovation. So make sure we regulate it and hopefully avoid financial instability. And some of the questions that you're asking, are we going to have a crisis? Regulators are trying to avoid that through innovation in regulation. And digital finance basically means using financial technology in banking. So incumbent banks are using digital finance, fintechs are using digital finance. It's just simply using technology in finance. Incumbents are using it, they never used to. So now your local bank will probably get you to use a chatbot to talk to you, to provide you with a customized service. That's digital finance. And at the CCAF, we actually put together a CCAF research 2 years ago, which was access to digital finance for the ASEAN region. So I hope that's sort of answered your question, that digital finance is literally bringing technology into finance, using financial technology. Nick, you were part of the research for the ASEAN access to digital finance research that we conducted. So I hope that's answered the question, really, in terms of what is digital finance. If not, please tell me.
Perfect. Thank you very much again for your question. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for the first session. Please join me in giving Dr. Dee and Nick Drury a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks very much.